This is the talk of Music City Real Estate.
Welcome back to another episode of the Talk of Music City Real Estate,
where we educate and motivate all things real estate.
My name is Monte Mohr with Realty One Group Music City.
Hey, and I'm Carey Ann with CMG Financial and my mortgage team.
Every week we'll be posting a new episode chock full of Nashville real estate value.
Yes, and you can follow along and subscribe at talkmusiccity.com.
Got a question for us? Ask away at questions@talkmusiccity.com.
Monty.
Carey Ann, so good to see your
today.
smiling face. Did you know, Carey Ann?
What?
I know this is beyond your realm of thinking, but it's not with the old guy here.
Okay.
Did you know that 10,000 baby boomers a day retire? 10,000 a day in this country are hitting retirement. Pretty crazy number.
Yeah.
And because of this market we call the senior market, I've asked JoAnn Brundage to join us today.
Yes,
JoAnn,
welcome.
thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
An awesome team player and team member here at Realty One Group Music City, but has chosen part of her business is that niche market of the working with the senior citizens. Mm-hmm. You know, so anyhow, we're going to delve into that. Before we do, JoAnn, tell us a little bit about you and how long you've been in business and what's your background. You surprised me, as I shared earlier, that when we kind of had a recent reshuffling of leaders and educators and so forth here in the company, you stepped up and said, hey, I can do this. And I had no idea you had that kind of background.
Well, I've been doing real estate for about 8 years now. And
long enough to know better, and you're still in it.
And I'm still in it, so I still can eat.
Yeah.
So I have a substantial business background. I was an executive for a couple different companies. My actual undergraduate degree is in accounting, and I have an MBA in business management.
Wow.
And so
you should be running this place instead of me.
From doing a lot of that, no, I don't want to run anything anymore.
She's like, I did that, done that, did that.
So from there, I've gotten a lot of marketing ideas, and so I use that in my real estate. And I realized that so much of what I did back at different companies that I can use in my real estate, and that's what really helps me help people get things done that they want done.
I love that.
Yeah, I know we've got you scheduled here coming up before too long to teach on marketing and so forth. So that's an awesome. I've seen your marketing; it's incredible. But how did you move into the senior arena? You know, just recognizing that's a big part of the people with equity out there, or you've been doing this longer than I think that we really saw a market change, haven't you? How long have you been working on that niche?
Well, it's probably been about 4 years now. And I think what really started it is I helped my mom and dad go through selling their house and moving into, my mom passed and my dad went to assisted living, and I realized this is hard. Mm-hmm. And then very short time later helped my husband deal with his father and mother, go through the exact same thing. And then soon after that had a client that has 5 children, and none of them had the time to help her. Oh. So I'm like, these people really need help, and even though they may have big families, they don't have the resources, and I do. And I've been developing a whole program of resources to help them. Mm-hmm. So things like I know people that can help them find senior placement. So assisted living facilities, they know, they call themselves the real estate agents of assisted living.
Oh, right. There you go.
They know where they go, and they interview them, and they work with them, and they actually take them around and show them. Mm-hmm. A lot of home health care assistants, whether they're nurses or even non-nurses that help them. So I've developed relationships with all these people, to help movers, help them get moved in, and estate sale people, help them sell stuff.
JoAnn, it's that passion, I think, or compassion rather, that you develop seeing your own family members deal with this challenge. And Connie and I said so many times that nothing prepares you in life, that at least in my 71 years on the planet, to take care of your aging or your elderly parent. Connie's folks moved in with us several years ago, lived with us for a couple of years, and that was not easy. I'd highly recommend anybody thinking about that, let's really weigh this out, because it was really tough, not knowing, it's really tough anyhow. So then dealing with my mom, the same kind of situation, but you do become so, compassionate and passionate about helping these folks, because they're not always respected or taken care of at the level they should be. And it is good to have the kind of list you're talking about here of resources where you can trust that estate sale person as an example, or you can trust, the person who's telling you that, hey, if your elderly one who's still remaining was married to a veteran, there's some veteran benefits possibly there that could help make a difference, which happened in my world. I didn't know, I wouldn't have known that had I not networked with somebody who had a handle on that and was able to save her enough or help her create enough money, additional money, that she was able to stay in a place that she wanted to stay. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to. So it's first of all, I applaud you for being an adult child that took care of your parents, because not everybody does.
Right.
I know.
That's so
I know.
good.
Carey Ann, you can relate to that. You're always doing things for your mom and stuff. Not that she's needing that help because she's a go-getter, but you're just so active in her life and everything.
Yeah, but I also think it's important because they have a better life. If you're able to step in, live their best life.
So anyhow, I just think it's something I wanted to bring attention to and a light on, that it's not just it's a big market, but when you consider that 11,200 people a day are turning 65, that's that age group. For those who don't know, the baby boomers from 1946 to 64 is what we're talking about. And I think that we're going to start seeing some things like aging in place. And one of the things I wanted you to talk about, Carey Ann, today was the options of somebody's aging in place that doesn't want to go outside, to an assisted or independent care, but wants to stay home because they just don't want to give that up. And that's, I think, one of the hardest things, especially for men, is to give up that home and go to a place where there's, I'll never forget when we brought my mom here from California, and she lived with us for a little bit, but we had a 3-level house. We were constantly worried about she was going to fall and so forth. So anyhow, we signed her up for a place up the street here in Cool Springs, and she went to visit, thought it was nice and so forth, but refused to live at one of those kind of places. Okay. And even when she finally did agree to, she wanted to have her mail sent to our place because she didn't want any of her friends knowing that she was living in one of those kind of places. And then a few months later, we couldn't get her out of there because she was afraid of missing bingo or whatever. That was the other flip side of it. So it was a beautiful thing. But so tell us more about what you do, JoAnn, to help in that arena. And then Carey Ann, I want to hear about what are the options with financing.
Well, my goal is to figure out what they need. And I'm very adamant with people when I first start talking to them, and they say, well, we're not ready. We may be ready in a year. I'm like, that's okay. That's all right if you want to spend some time and think about it. And I've dealt with clients for 2 years waiting for them to decide what they want to do. And I'm not pushy. I'm not aggressive. I just want to work with them. And if they need money in the meantime, then it's great having Carey Ann available to say, well, here's some options that we can do now so that, you can stay in your home longer. And then when you're ready to move in, to do something different.
Do you find it is best to go ahead and be real with them? Because I think, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but it seems like the older folks definitely have a bullshit meter that they can rely on, that if you're just trying to make a sale, but it sounds like you're becoming an advocate of theirs.
Oh, absolutely. And I really work with them and try to encourage them to, even if they don't use me, to use a realtor. There's so many people out there that are scammers, and a lot of them say they're realtors when they're not. And so I try to make sure that they understand that there is a lot more value in using a realtor, especially a certified senior real estate specialist that kind of understands what they're going through and can work through them with that.
So I forgot you have that designation of working with seniors. So let's talk about that for a minute. Did you feel, I'm assuming, better equipped after taking that course? Or did you already know most of what was taught?
I learned that I knew most of it after dealing with my family and my husband's family of dealing with that. But it is very hard. It's, when you're in a smaller house and you're buying a bigger house, there's so much excitement involved and you're buying new stuff, and that's very fun and it's cool things to do. But when you're downsizing, it's a little bit of a struggle. And I actually, on my website, I have a downsizing checklist.
Oh, wow.
That I really encourage them to kind of look through some of the things, because it's not easy. It's not easy to get rid of stuff. things you may have in your closet that your kids did when they were 5 and 7 years old, and what do you do with this stuff? And
I remember my mom, we lived in a house for 30-something years. And I think I was 10 when we moved there. And so again, I'm the oldest of 4. So every Halloween costume, I mean, talk about TLC, you know, we had everything. And so to get my mom to let go of that when she moved out of that very large home into a smaller condo to live her best life in Florida, it was difficult. And she was still, 68 at the time, but even that is just difficult. You want to save everything for a rainy day.
Well, I always encourage them to give them to, like, she would give it to you. So that you can share that with your kids. and then sometimes, and I've known that they gave it to their kids goes, I don't want it, and they threw it away. But it took the burden off of them to not throw it away. It was up to the kids to throw it away.
We recently helped a lady, I was telling you, 92 years old, and it was through a great organization called Both Hands, and she's a widower. And so volunteers come in to help organize their house. And so this sweet lady, Aubrey found a VHS. She didn't know what it was, right? Player. And so we asked her very kindly, would you like us to get rid of this for you, bring it to Goodwill? Oh no, I'm going to play my VHSs. Well, we turned her head and it was a whole bookcase, right, of every movie you can think of in VHS. And she did not want to get rid of that, at all. So she thought she was going to watch her movies. So sweet. So it was more or less reorganizing all of her stuff until she gets to a place where she's comfortable getting rid of it. But I can understand and appreciate that too. I think it takes a special person with a personality that is calm and inviting, right? And there is a willingness to help, right? You do have to take a step down, right? Just to be loving and understanding and all the things when helping, our seniors. And seniors can be considered, what's the age of a senior?
Well, much older than me, of course, much older than me.
Years down the road for some of us.
Yeah,
but.
In my, right, I mean, I remember my mom's 40th birthday and the decorations were over the hill. And I'm like, I had mine. I'm like, I am a young chicken. There's no over the hill here, type of thing.
I got a cane with a horn on it.
Yeah. So, the new 50 or the 50 is the new 30 and all the things. So what is considered senior?
Well, I think it really depends on their health status and their lifestyle status. For some people at 70, they're going, I'm not ready yet. And then I know other people in their late 60s are like, yeah, I'm ready to downsize. I'm not all ready to move into assisted living, but a lot of them are ready to just get a smaller home with less maintenance. And a lot of times, especially if a spouse has passed away, is really a really good time for them to say, this house is just way too big, and I can use the money, the equity in the house without going into debt, selling that house, and then doing some traveling and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Live your best life.
Yeah.
But you were sharing some stories earlier, about just some seniors and just all people and consumers in general, right, don't know what they don't know. And we sometimes, as professionals within the industry, assume they know. And sometimes they get connected to the wrong people, right? Hear possibly an ad that takes them down a road that wine and dines them in their mind, and then all of a sudden they're signing something that they should never have had. And you have some stories to share.
Oh, absolutely. I've talked to a lady that she had sold her house, and she said, 5 days before the closing, they came back and wanted to take another $60,000 off of it because of some problems in the house. And then I find out where she was, and she was in an area that she ended up getting, I think, $325 for the house. That area she could have gotten for just empty land over $800,000. She just didn't know, and she said, my husband just took care of all that. And so that's what really breaks my heart, and that's what really makes me want to say, let's work on this, and let's talk to someone who's really in it for you and not for them. And some of them will come to them and say they're realtors, and but they're not. They're not always.
They're possibly not in it for the right reasons, you know, and taking advantage, which is sad. What are your thoughts? Because again, our audience is real estate agents that are listening, to connect with more of your senior, community. where would you start to build those conversations and have those conversations?
Well, I do start working with some of the senior services people that I have, that they have, either people that are working with them to find them an assisted living facility,
okay.
or some of the, the in-home nurses and that kind of stuff, where they want to stay home as long as they can, but at some point they're not going to be able to. So I talk to a lot of them as well, let them know who I am, and I have brochures, and so I like to show my legitimacy. Is I really am a realtor, and I really am in it for the long run to help them out. And I'm fine with if they're like, no, it's going to be another year. That's fine, and I think that's important. If you're going to get in the senior business, you need to be patient.
Right,
it's
for
not
sure.
a quick sale.
I'm glad you mentioned about the services that are available, JoAnn, because Connie and I didn't find that out until after we went out to all the places and tried to keep track of, what is included, what is not, what kind of meals, what kind of environment, how big is the place, all this stuff. We went out there, and I don't know how many we visited on weekend after weekend, trying to find a place for her folks when they moved here. And that brings up another topic that I do want to make mention of, and that is, if you're an adult child helping a spouse or even giving advice to a client, my conviction is, after experiencing both sides, is don't help them purchase a assisted living or independent care facility. There's one big one on Concord Road that is well known. It's like really going to a restaurant. It's really, really nice. But when you break it down, the costs of that, the reason I mention that is just like in my in-laws' case, life can change quickly when you're 70, 80, 90 years old. And you made a commitment to purchase. Her folks made a commitment to purchase when they were in their mid 80s, and he could afford it. There was not a problem. But then one of those investments went south, and on top of that, their increases were unbelievable. How much they went up. Those rents went up after they bought the place. They paid like $400,000 for the unit, and then it was another, I forget, $4,200 a month rent, something like that, and then it went up to $6,000 within a year, and then when they went to purchase or rent another one that was just a rental, they found out when they came back to this place to give notice, well, you got to give us 3 months notice, and the place where they had put a deposit on said, I'm sorry, we can't take it off the market for 3 months. And I thought to myself, if this was our business in the real estate community or the mortgage business, we'd be arrested for something like this. To hold up a senior citizen for all that time and literally put them in limbo. They couldn't make it. They couldn't afford to stay. They didn't have the money to rent something else parallel to that experience. And then I find out that this place was, anyhow, I could go on, but I'm sorry, I don't want to offend anybody, but the reality is, I honestly believe wholeheartedly, after dealing with two sets of parents in that place, that a rental, it makes a lot more sense than a purchase. I'm just going to leave it there.
Oh, I totally agree. And I like to, especially if they have a lot of equity in their house, one of my list of people is a financial planner to help if they don't already have one. A lot of them already have their own, but to say, here's what you can do for the money to make sure that this is how much money you're going to have,
right,
for the rest of your life, or this is how you can do this so you have plenty of money. And you're right. I think rentals are better because they are month to month. And some places, they're really great for 6 or 7 months, and the management changes often on those places. So it may be great for a while, and then you don't like it, or your needs change, and you need to move to someplace different.
That's what happened with my mom.
Yep.
She loved the, what's it called up the street here?
Heritage.
Is it Heritage?
Heritage.
Okay. She loved that place. She absolutely loved it. She was the belle of the ball. First time in her life that she got focused, and attention. And then she fell one time. And so she had to go, she had to go to another location. So had she purchased that, her whole life would have been upside down. But anyway, so Carey Ann, let's talk about what if I were a senior citizen, which will happen when I plan on going to triple digits, Lord willing. But let's say I was 101. Okay.
Oh my, Monty for 101 years.
No, but let's say that I said, look, I really don't want to give up my garden. It's a one level house that we have. I really want to continue to live here and age in place, but I wasn't real smart, during my years, and I don't have a lot of income. So what can I do if I own my home? Let's say I own my home free and clear. What can I do to age in place? Do you have an option on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing that there are options, which is exciting. I think educating more, and I think making sure that we all as a community do things in the right way, right? There's some people that just give out reverse mortgages for this reason or that, and that's not the best option for the consumer, right? So we want to make sure it is a wise choice for anybody, and I'm putting that disclaimer out there because I think it is important, that we do every move for the right reasons, but doing some education, they talk about 1/3 of America hasn't even saved for retirement. Right. And then 2/3 have only saved around less than $100,000 for retirement. Right. And so, I was asking earlier, what is considered the age of a senior, right? Well, in the eyes of a reverse mortgage, you have to only be 62. Right. And so to know my mom is, the same age as my friend over here, right? And she's living her best life now due to house.
Is she as old as I am?
Yeah, you guys are the same age. Yeah.
You're kidding. Yeah, she looks a lot younger than I do.
She's living her best life now. And she had to, sell her house, and we rent, and it makes sense for us to rent because for her daughter to buy her home, which would be what she would want, it would be very costly just for the insurance from the amount of money that we're renting, right, down in Florida. So it makes sense for her to do what she's doing for the time frame because, again, she might be swept off her feet with the right new friend of hers. You never know, and she might travel for the rest of her life. So doing what she's doing makes sense. But other folks, if you're of 62 years old, you may currently own a home with lots of equity. And you can do something called a reverse mortgage, right? So you do need to make sure you have a decent amount of equity because it allows you the opportunity, if it's your primary home, to refinance that into a reverse, number one, or you can go purchase with JoAnn and do a reverse mortgage. So let's say you have a large sum of equity from the house that you are currently selling to downsize in, right? So that gives you the opportunity not to have any mortgage payments. You are required to have and pay your taxes and your insurance every year. And then you also could have a monthly income source as well, right? So it's a combo of both. However, depending on how much money we're working with, and that's where the lender, it's kind of scary to say the lender decides the age of your so-called death, but there is a calculation that works through all of that to make sure that you will have enough to do both things, right? Receive the income and then also not have any monthly payments. You have to be comfortable, though, to be able to pay your tax bill. So what ends up happening sometimes is you're in your home for so long, and then the taxes, continue to raise. So you want to keep that in mind as well when you're serving the community. But there is lots of options. The other thing is, let's say right now you have a client who has a reverse mortgage, and you're going to help sell that home for them. And so we have some real estate agents, assisting some folks right now that are in that situation. So let's say the market is shifted and they need to sell. Maybe it's not the best time to sell, but they need to sell because they're moving in the direction of assisted living. And so if that home is actually worth less than what they owe on it at that time, the servicer covers the difference. You do need to make sure you go directly with the servicer. But if there is an equity gain, they receive the equity. So there is a win there for the consumer too. So
one thing I like about the reverse mortgage as an option is if you got somebody coming from California that, let's say they've got $1 million worth of equity, but they can't buy what they're looking for, they can pay cash for a $500,000 home with only $250,000, can't they, of that money or whatever they basically buy with half down and not have a payment.
Correct, right. So you would need at least half of that, right, to make sure you have a sufficient equity to be able to do what you're wanting to do. And again, depending upon how much money you do have to play with will determine how long, or actually how much money you do receive monthly, because there is a calculation that they're going to follow through. But there's no credit score requirement, right, like there is with the loans that we do on a regular basis. They're looking at the whole storyline. Again, 62 is a young age, right? So it may not make sense for you to do it at 62, depending on, the people are living longer. I mean, Monty just said he's living to 101. Aubrey's grandmother, she lived in the same home until she died, and she was 97 years old. The home that she raised all her kids in, right? You were showing me a picture of the house you were raised in the other day, right? So that there's lots of clearly equity. That home has been paid off, for a long time. Now you might receive your Social Security, you might receive pension from previous jobs, other things. So maybe you don't need the extra payment, but at least this is an option for folks that can be a win when the time is right.
Well, one thing reason that I love the all-in-one loan is, we opted for that rather than look at a reverse mortgage later on, because it kind of acts something similar where if we need the money, we write a check. Correct,
right. And so you, again, going back to like active seniors, right? I mean, at a certain age, they're considered seniors. What's the card that we're going to get, or I got, or I'm going to get? What's it called when you've made the mark?
Oh, the ARP card?
Yeah, right? So that's what they get it. You get it in the mail. But again, we're living life. We're doing so many things. So yes, there is another option now, which is the all-in-one, which allows you to, have access to your equity for a rainy day. If you don't need consistent income, but you want to go buy that car, right? Or you want to go buy this or that, you have the ability to do that with having access to your equity for a full 30 years. I will tell you that we don't discriminate against age. So if reverse mortgage is not the option for you, you can get a 30-year fix that is fully amortized. So at any age as well. So
because you got a trailing spouse has to be at least 62, right? I'm not sure. I'm not sure about the details, but I think if a person is under 60, I do think it affects how much you can get.
Oh, sure. Yeah, right. Yes. And like I said, they're going to do the calculation.
Because they don't want that person in there for more than a certain number of years, I guess, is the...
For the reverse, but on a regular 30-year, I mean, I've had that situation where I think I had a 70-something-year-old get a 30-year loan. So again,
good for them.
Yeah, I mean, you could do that, right? That's another option as well. So again, we're talking about serving a community of seniors, whether that is helping them downsize their home, and or maybe even just bringing value to them, which possibly is connecting them with a financial advisor that may guide them in the direction of possibly an all-in-one and or a reverse mortgage, like you were sharing. But really just making sure that we connect them to true professionals that really are thinking of all things for them for the right reasons.
And I think JoAnn sets a great example of if you're going to go into this kind of a market, make sure you're equipped to handle those kinds of needs. JoAnn, share with us again what you shared at the very beginning here as far as the different resources that you have put together so that you can make sure that if somebody has put their trust in you in this arena, that you're fully equipped to handle that because of all the different needs that they have.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's many of them, but the senior center placement, that is the one that was a surprise most because I did the same thing. I helped my mom and dad find a place. I helped my in-laws find a place and a brother-in-law find a place. So they're actually, they know all the places in town. So if you say, well, I'm really active, I want this kind of place, and here's your options here. I want to be left alone and I don't want parties all the time, then this is the place. So that's a really good resource.
And what a time saver that you don't have to go out there. I mean, when we finally found that for the next place my mom went to, it's like, it was unbelievable. I mean, it was honestly like a realtor in that community. That and sometimes they can work out a better price than you can.
They do. They negotiate.
That's what's amazing as well.
I had no idea that was negotiable.
Oh, really?
It is amazing. So I've got several of those people on my list, and they're always looking for business. So I'm happy to share some of that with people, and then the home health people as well. Because sometimes they say they want to stay home, but they just need more help. Okay, you're not ready to leave yet. Here's some options for you to help do that. And so they'll do that. And then when they are ready to move, obviously, I deal with a lot of attorneys that will help them, make sure they do it. And then the financial planners to help make sure that the money goes in an account that is set for them and not some maybe people coming in saying they suddenly need money. So I kind of help them, steer them in that direction if that's what they're looking for, if they don't have it. And then obviously the state sales and movers and just all sorts of other resources. We also, we here at Realty One Group deal with the Boss Cat Company. That's a great resource.
tool.
If they've got things that are broken and need repair or need some updating that would really help the house sell for more, they can do that, and they don't have to pay for that until they close.
Right.
So that is
That's
a
huge.
huge
Yeah.
resource. Yes.
Yeah.
So that's excellent that we have that for them as well.
Yeah, and getting
So-
them ready to sell, right? So they can net the most income. I think that's key for
Yep.
sure.
I'm
Yes.
glad you brought up Boss Cat. That's a great resource.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
So I love too that you have all of these resources on your website. So this is a main focus for you in your business. Yeah. So knowing that your background and you had a degree in business, like you're building your business within your business, right? Like building a business within a business,
Yep.
right? Which I think is so key. And we could take, that's a good takeaway and a good nugget is, picking a niche, however you say that.
I say
Fancy
niche.
word.
You say niche, I say niche.
Yeah, tomato. It's all good. But, that is one that you focus on and serve many others as well.
yeah.
But that is a focus that's dear to your heart, right? And being able to have the resources and building that, just not, hey, I'm going to help you. It's really taking the time to organize all that together. I think
Yep.
that's really
Starts with a
key.
compassionate heart, I think.
It does, and it's making sure that they get the most amount of money for their house because they need that money, especially if they're going to assisted living in one of those facilities because they're not cheap.
No, they're
we're
expensive,
talking
yeah.
$4,000 a month minimum.
Yes.
Typically.
Yeah.
No, very expensive.
So the best way to get the most amount of money is to do it that way and get it on the market and see what we can get for it, and then so they've got that money to help retire with.
Such great information. Thank you so much for
Thank
being
you,
with
JoAnn.
us.
Thank you for
today.
having me.
We appreciate
This
you.
is really, it's and to know, if you need some assistance with reverse mortgages, we have a whole dedicated team at Carey Ann and my mortgage team that just focuses on reverse mortgages, which I'm very grateful that CMG has provided this for us, because I think you need to have professionals that do it on a regular basis, right? That you're not just doing one-offs. I think that needs to be their main focus. So I love that
Totally
we
agree.
have that as well as our all-in-one department as well. So thank you again for just being a shining light and sharing today. And we appreciate you all joining us. We can't wait to have you come back. You've been listening to The Talk of Music City Real Estate.